Hi, I'm Brandon with DCC Builders, and today we're going to meet with Miracle Mike and talk about his method.
Hey Brandon, how are you?
Well, this is Mike. Mike from Miracle Method Surface Refinishing, which specializes in reglazing tubs and tile and now countertops and cabinets.
Yep, we resurface many different types of things, including flooring as well. So we can take an ugly tub. It's amazing here in Central Florida that the
how
different
many ugly
colors.
tubs there are.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, not just the color. We've seen avocado, we've seen starburst gold, Pepto-Bismol pink, and so we see all kinds of different colors, and we can change those colors. And then one of the other things that we do as well is anything that's damaged. There's a lot of times instead of having to pull that out, we can replace those things, or instead of replacing them, we can repair them.
Gotcha.
And it comes to a point where some things are maybe just too far, but it's amazing what we have been able to do. And
I guess that's why they call it the Miracle Method.
Yeah.
And then who's this guy?
This is my son. This is Brian.
Yeah.
We're father-son team. We're a family-owned business. It's a franchise that we've been in business. We're on our fourth fiscal year now, and I always wanted to be in business with my dad. We did some things outside of a business environment together. Many things, just as a 7-year-old, helping him around our house, taking out galvanized plumbing, and seeing the miracle that water still flowed, and converting the electrical. So that's where I got my start. And then my dad had helped me do several different projects around our home as we lived at different places. And but now I didn't get to do business with my dad, but I get to do business with my son.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's
Very
cool.
And so the long term is that eventually I will, retire. At some point, I don't know. Still want to keep active. But Brian and his wife are alongside me and my wife. So it's the four of us. My brother-in-law works with us as well.
And then some friends of mine from college are some of our technicians. And then we've had some other people kind of come and go who have been close friends of ours. So we're a pretty tight-knit group, which is really great. Creates a really good work environment too. Everyone tends to be able to work well with each other, and what we do, it's very hands-on, and so there can be a lot of questions, and it's one of those things where it's, even though we work on our own, if one of us needs help, I can guarantee you any one of my guys would jump up and help. So
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now you went to Southeastern, you were telling me earlier.
yeah, well, I've been to multiple colleges.
My wife went to Southeastern also.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I liked it. It was really nice. I met my wife there. My wife and I always joked to where I was the most expensive husband she's ever had, even though she's only had me. And then she's, the most expensive wife because, tuition isn't cheap there, but
Right.
the campus is beautiful. The teachers are really great. It just, once I kind of figured out I was going to get married, I said, all right, I got to head up to Kentucky and save some money so we can get married. And then I left. So then I went to University of Louisville up in Kentucky.
I got you.
Yeah.
So that's funny what you were saying about what your wife said about
Yeah.
you. It reminds me of a guy that I was working with, and I didn't know him super well, but we were one time working outside, and all of a sudden a car pulled through the parking lot, and there was a woman. She rolled down the window, and he walked up there and talked to her, and then he says, "Okay, I'll see you later. I love you." And then she left, and I was like, "Who is that?" He says, "Oh, that's my first wife." I said, "Oh, how many times have you been married?" He said, "Once."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's it. We're gonna get silence. That's my dad joke, guys. Just keep going.
He's full of them, so just.
So, 4 years in business. So, what do you find yourself doing mostly as far as the resurfacing goes? Is it tub and surround, or is that like the most common thing?
I would say that's probably the largest item that we do is the tubs and surrounds. And we do, and a lot of times then people will also then pair up the vanities, because we've got 30 different colors. So a lot of times kind of a typical thing would be you'd spray the tub white, and then maybe the surround might be a dove gray, and then you can match the vanity countertop with that as well. But we do a lot of kitchen countertops, and last year we would go in and say, hey, we can resurface your countertops instead of having to pull all of those out. We can give a new surface to it. Well, I'd like to upgrade my cabinets too. Well, we were farming that out to a vendor, and we decided, look, we just keep it all in the same house. So we've been doing cabinets now for over a year. We take the doors off, spray the boxes, and then we replace the doors with new style of design. The hardware is a soft close and modern hardware handles and stuff. And the transformation's incredible. And it is different than just taking your old doors and then painting them.
Right.
Because with shaker style is really the most popular.
Right.
And so that transformation of like your oak doors with that little arch, and now it's the square, the contemporary, it's amazing.
But it's the same cabinets.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like a whole different
Sure.
kitchen altogether.
Yeah, because when we started, a lot of like when we come up with new ideas, that's one of, like my main objectives is to learn it and then to do it, then to train the other people to do it as well. And the guy who I learned it from, it's kind of, I guess it was originally even like bathtubs, to where I was just like, how is this going to make it look that great? We're just spraying it a color and then throwing new doors. I mean, some of these, it's amazing because, with the boxes already being in decent shapes, just painting it and then throwing up new doors, I mean, it can completely change a whole look and just modernize everything.
Now, is that glazing that you spray on the countertops? Well, you're spraying everything that you do. You're using the same glazing, right?
The kitchen, the cabinets is a cabinet paint designed for
Okay.
the cabinets. The countertop or the countertops and the tub and the surrounds is a polyurethane product.
Can you cut on that?
No.
No.
Just like if you would take a steak knife and cut your steak on the laminate's going to get cut.
Okay.
So you do have to be careful of any kind of, because it is a spray, and even with marble or corian, if you're going to take a knife to it on the top, you will scar it. So it's the same type of.
So when you're
same
cleaning
kind.
your tub, I mean, can you use
And abrasive.
abrasive cleaners?
We suggest and recommend things like Simple Green, and there's a product in the dollar store that is probably one of the best cleaning products called Awesome. You can buy a bottle of it for $1, and it cleans. It's amazing how well that
It's
cleans.
like a multi-purpose cleaner.
Yeah.
I've seen
Yeah.
that before.
Yeah, it is really, I mean, you can use it for your cars, for anywhere in the kitchen and bath and stuff. But you want to stay away from anything that's abrasive, and then Clorox bleach. That'll dull the finish, and so you don't want to
gotcha.
use those type of products. But when you spray, like your surrounds have your grout, and your grout is a very porous
Right.
product. So your mold and mildew penetrate that, and once it penetrates that, unless you remove the grout, that'll stay there. So what our product does is we go in, we have a multiple step cleaning process. Step one is an acidic type based product. It gets rid of your body oils, your soaps, neutralizes the calcium and other minerals that's in the water, removes all that. Then our step two brings everything back into a pH balance, so that when we do our next steps, it's not going to be trying to adhere to something that's acidic. So it balances it out. Then we do a lacquer bath, wash it out, where it takes any other impurities and any kind of moisture away from it. And then we do what's really the miracle is our bonding agent. Most painters or most people that are in our industry, they'll either have a mechanical bond. That's a fancy term for I'm going to take sandpaper and rough it up so what I'm applying has something to grip to.
Right.
Or they'll do an acid bath, which is a chemical.
It etches it.
Which etches it, causes some friction and texture to it, which also can damage the surface of your original product. Or what we do is we do a chemical bonding, which bonds to the original surface, and then our primer bonds to that, and then our top coat bonds to that. So you have a chemical bond, and that's why we've had people, our first year we had somebody call us, two ladies in the same summer, different locations in the Tampa area, that had Miracle Method do their tubs 13 years and I think 15 years prior. And the adhesion was perfect, but over that period of time, the minerals in the water had kind of just dulled the surface.
finish, yeah.
So we went in and cleaned it up and then gave them a fresh spray. But the adhesion was still solid.
So is the exact chemicals that you use for the Miracle Method, are they proprietary to Miracle Method surface refinishing?
The cleaning product is, and the bonding agent is.
Okay.
The coloring is the highest standard for the industry. It's not something that you go down to Home Depot or to Sherwin-Williams to get. Now they have good products for certain projects, but when you're dealing with your countertops and your tubs, we have a urethane type based product
A
that is
professional based product.
yeah.
to use.
So when we spray, you can, the following day, we can come in and we can wet sand. Because sometimes, you are doing this all by hand, so you may have some runs, or you may have some, when you leave, you're leaving with a wet product, and so somebody kicks on the air conditioner, might have a dust bunny that gets in. The next day we can come in, we can wet sand that, and then buff and polish it. And it gives a nice shine to it. So
Yeah, it's very similar to like what they paint cars with, and the process of that. So it's really strong and durable, just in general compared to, sometimes we go into people's house and when I went to one person's house and there's like this epoxy spray paint for appliances that he tried doing his tub in. And I mean, just with lacquer, it just came right off.
Right.
So that can't happen with our products, which is really nice. But there's definitely different levels of items out there for the paint.
yeah.
So from the time that you were done, you're walking away. The paint is, or not the paint, but the finish is wet.
Mm-hmm.
From there, how long does it take to cure? And when can the customer use their restroom again? Their shower.
Our
again?
process is a 2-day process
2 days.
typically. Of course, the larger the size of project, then the longer time it may take. But if we're just talking about a tub, we'll go in, we'll do our masking, we'll do our cleaning, multiple step cleaning, and then do our spray. So you have the bonding agent, then you have your primer and your top coat. After all of that is sprayed, then we come back the following day and we'll detail it out, make sure that there's no runs, that type of thing. And then we would like for you to have another the next morning. So I come in Monday morning, do our spray, come in Tuesday morning, do the detail, then Wednesday morning you can do the tub.
So you got to go without a shower for 3 days. So
Well, it's unusual to have one bathroom, but and a lot of times we'll do projects where you do one bathroom on Monday, Tuesday, then the next bathroom on Thursday,
Right.
Friday, because it's not unusual for us to come in when someone's renovating their home or they're upgrading their home. They want to kind of do it all, because we've had people do multiple bathrooms and their kitchen and their cabinets, do all of that renovation for what we charge. They may be able to do a kitchen for a whole revamp. So you can get a lot more for your money by using our
and you guys don't
services.
mind stepping it, like, oh, okay, well, I mean, just for the sake of people still being able to live there. I mean, obviously you would be much more efficient and make much more money with that efficiency if you were able to come in and do everything that they needed done all at one time.
Oh yeah.
And
But-
we can do that, and we do that with like vacant homes.
Gotcha.
But most
People
of them
live there. You don't mind. Okay, well, we'll do the bathroom, and then when that's done, we'll do the other bathroom, and then when that's done, we'll go ahead and we'll tackle the kitchen. And
right, because then you're only invading their personal space a little bit longer, maybe a couple more days longer, but our whole process is shorter than a whole revamp, and then they can still be in their home with minimal, juggling of things.
do they have to clear all the cabinets out?
They're supposed to. Yeah.
When you're doing the cabinet job.
Yes, when we're doing the cabinet jobs.
But if they're just doing the countertops, all we have to have is the countertops cleared off.
Yeah.
Sure.
There was a guy that we were doing his cabinets, and I get there, and he has some food truck, really good food. But man, he has tons of seasonings, and he did not clear any of it out. So I get there day of, and I'm like, oh gosh. And so you're trying to take it all out while keeping it organized for him. So yeah, sometimes we get those customers that don't clean things out. So yeah.
Our product, though, we have some samples of laminate that we've sprayed colors on.
Right.
You can take that laminate and bend it.
And it doesn't
flex.
chip off?
It does not chip. It does not crack. It flexes with it.
Wow.
And so one of the things that is very popular now that you see a lot of YouTube videos is about epoxy. And epoxy is a very brittle, very hard product that can, when it chips, you can't repair it. Where if you do take a steak knife to the countertop and you cut or you drop something on there, do some type of damage to our product, we can come in and actually repair that and blend everything in, and you wouldn't be able to see the differences there. So it's a very flexible. That's one reason why we use the top of the line products, because you have much more flexibility of your operations, whether it's the first application or the repairs.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm sure, being a franchise owner of Miracle Method surface refinishing, you're probably only allowed to use those top of the line products. Is that true or false?
They have their recommendations, and of
you.
course I stay with those recommendations, but it is our business, so I do have a lot more flexibility. And one of the things, such as the flexibility, is that I'm looking at in the future, perhaps this year. We still want to try to get a timing down on it, but we're looking at doing garage flooring. And so they have some recommendations as far as the product, the top of the line product. And I know that there's other people out there that do garage flooring that uses an epoxy base, and it'll take a multiple day time period before you can park your car on the garage. The type of stuff that we're looking at is you'd be able to park your car in the garage the second day, the next day. So they have recommendations. They expect you to maintain a high standard. And
so if you were to pick a product on your own, they expect it to be
yes,
right up there with their
yes.
recommended product.
Anything that you use would have to maintain their warranty guidelines. So when we spray something, it has a warranty of a minimum of 5-year adhesion, which means that it's not going to peel or pull back away from the original surface. If it does, then we come back and repair it. And I say if it does, because it does happen. And if there's a failure, it's usually within the 3 months, because it is all hand done. When the guys are applying the bonding agent, they're applying it with a product that's putting it on. And so when they're going across, they may go across and drop down and may miss a spot.
So they're not spraying on the bonding agent, they're like wiping it on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can spray it, but typically we don't do that unless you're in a big commercial job where you're trying to knock out like 30 tubs in a day.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So there can be some failures, and if you look at our Google reviews or any of our reviews, we've got outstanding reviews. But it's not because we don't make errors. It's because if there is an error, we go back and we take care of it, and we give them the good customer service. And so I think that's very important. You've been in the industry for a while, and in construction, nothing is perfect.
Never.
And the important thing is, if there's a problem, that you correct it. And
Agree.
my background and my wife's background has been the industries and the companies we work for have been highly motivated to make sure that the customer experience is as positive as possible.
I'm glad that we segued into that. I just had an experience recently where I was the customer, and I'm trying to remember the exact thing. This just happened within the last week. But really the point is that I called. Oh, it's coming to me. Oh yes, okay. So it's a place where I buy building materials, and I called. They brought out what I ordered, delivered it to the job, and when the driver showed up, he was expecting payment, and I have an account with this place with terms, and so of course he's just a driver. He's just doing what he's told. So I'm not there's no sense in debating with him at all. So I just pick up the phone and I call my rep. My rep wasn't available. He was off that day. So then I just call counter customer service and I just say, hey, this is who I am. This is a company that I'm with. And, your driver's here bringing materials and he's expecting payment. And he's like, okay, pulls up my account and it was just, he was very insistent that I needed to make the payment, and I was like, hey man, I've got an account. So he's like, well, that's not what it shows here. And I said, I understand that that's what you're seeing, but there's clearly a mistake because I've already purchased materials from you before, and I was sent a bill, and then I paid the bill, and that's how it worked last time, And I am new also to this company, so I'll give him some grace. But the point is that whatever happened to the customer service where the customer's always right? I think this is a perfect example of when you can just assume this isn't for a customer to take advantage of that adage, but as a customer, as someone providing customer service, just assume the customer's right and that what they're saying is correct, and at least dig into that until you find out something different.
Yeah.
And I think that's missing from today. And I had a very bad experience with that person. Now, I ended up getting disconnected. I had to call back. I got a different person. That person assumed that what I was saying was true.
Yeah.
Did a little bit of digging. It took him like 5 minutes, and he came back and he realized what had happened. So when I was in the process of getting an account, they gave me a cash account. So I had two accounts. When I called and made my second order, they inadvertently put that order on the cash account, and that's what happened. It just needed to be switched.
Yep.
But because the other guy was refusing to even entertain the fact that I was correct, he was providing, in my opinion, poor customer service.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I just think that it would be so good if we could just get back to those basics this day and age.
Yeah.
I get so many compliments from people, and I'm sure you guys do too, because they're like, when they're writing that final check after the job's done, he's like, I've had guys that say, hey, I'm going to use you again in the future because you answer the phone.
Yeah.
It's
simple.
crazy. My wife does our sales.
Yeah.
Simple things.
And she's shocked by how many times that she hears that where, hey, I've contacted this contractor or that contractor. They won't even come out and look, it doesn't do an estimate, or if they do an estimate, come out to do the estimate, then they never turn in the quote,
Why would you go out and spend all that time with a customer? You've got time invested now, and then not actually follow through with an estimate that could turn into a job.
Yeah, well, not only do you have time invested, but in regards to marketing too, because that's actually where my background is. I mean, you're paying for those leads, whether it be digital, radio, anything like that, and they're not cheap. So one person, even if let's say your click rate is at or $30 per click, that's $30 that you just wasted because you didn't turn in your quote sheet. It's crazy. So.
Yeah, and then I had a gentleman just the other day. This has been kind of like on my mind a lot lately, customer service, and he called me Well, first of all, we had like our initial talk on like a Wednesday, and then I said, well, man, I'm not even sure if I'll be able to look at your stuff until maybe Friday, but I didn't give a for sure.
Yeah.
You know, because he just popped up Wednesday out of nowhere, so he called me Friday, and I answered the phone. And I said, listen, man, I could and it was later in the afternoon. I said, I can tell you right now, it didn't happen. I've been out in the field Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
And I don't expect to be back in the office till Monday. So this is like a little over a week ago. And I said, but I'll take a look at your stuff Monday, and then we can talk on Tuesday. And he was like, man, thanks for just letting me know.
Yeah.
That's fine. And he was talking about how some people in that situation, or most people this day and age, just because they haven't looked at it yet, they would just simply avoid his call.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why not just get on the phone and just say what's going on, so that, so that people know. And I just don't. And I know construction is crazy right now, and people are overloaded. But I mean, how hard is it to just answer the phone and say, hey, listen, I'm working on it. You're on my radar. You're in my stack. You're on my list, whatever.
Yeah.
But I will be getting back to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, like for our guys too, another big thing with that that we see is in regards to communication is, because we set up multiple jobs for our guys every day. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3, can be more. But what we've learned is even if they know, let's say they have a job scheduled at 1 and it's 12 o'clock, they know they're not going to get out there till 1:30. We instruct our guys to not call at the 1:30 when they're on their way, but really 12:30, or even once they notice, hey, I'm going to be late. Because I can think of a few companies that, are awful with schedules, that are big companies, and you sit there and you keep calling them because your 2 to 3 window has, gone overboard, and you're like, hey, where are they at? And they're like, oh, yeah, they're on their way, and then it's 5, 6 o'clock at night, and you're like,
but they're on their way for hours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so, and to us, that's probably one of our strongest things is because we're calling them in advance, saying, hey, we are running a little bit late. We are still seeing you today. It just, instead of 1, it might be 1:30. We give them a different time period, and
Sure.
then when we're on our way, we give them a call again just to give them.
It's just the customer that you value their time, because their time, so you give somebody a 2 to 3 hour window. Well, now whatever they had going on, it has to be pushed around that 2 to 3 hour window. Maybe they had kids they had to go pick up.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something going on, but now you've pushed it to a 2 to 6 hour window, and now okay, well, my whole day is shot, and so.
And I agree with what you're saying, because I can't tell you how many times that I already know. I mean, it's 45 minutes before I'm even supposed to be there, and I already know I'm going to be late.
Yeah.
Because of whatever's going on. Well, that's the time to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I'm going to be about a half hour late. I'm not going to make it at 2 o'clock. I'm going to be there at 2:30.
Right.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
By the way, that's a question. That's up to them.
Yeah.
Is it okay that I'm late? Obviously, if it's not okay, then we'll just have to reschedule for another day. But,
Right.
And that's one of the challenges with the industry that we're in, because when you go in, you're expected to be a project maybe 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever the time window is, and there's, it's not new construction where you're building with brand new products. You get in, you find something that needs a little tweak, a little adjustment, and that time can be anywhere from maybe a half hour to maybe 2 hours difference in the original time frame. So then having that communication to the customer is extremely important, and it's very common in our industry that you need to adjust schedules.
Yeah, I think just a lot of companies forget what it's like to be a customer. In essence, the biggest thing, especially for us, because we're dealing with fumes, overspray, things like that can damage people's property. We're very particular about how we mask up so we don't do anything. And I've had guys that no longer work for us who just did not care about that. They're like, oh, I'll clean that up tomorrow. I'm like, no, these are hardwood floors of customers. I'm like, you need to clean those up. My wife and I, when we first moved down back to Florida after moving up north, before we rented this house, and when I went to go call my water bill to pay it, it was a $900 bill. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. We had a hot water leak underground. So
water line,
yeah. So they sent someone out, And they were doing the work. The guy was really nice. But in Florida, because you have the sand underneath, there was tons of sand in our house. The guy did not care to clean up. It was like that for multiple weeks. My wife and I, we kept sweeping, but because you have air conditioning going, blowing it, and then, kicking up the dirt, I mean, we constantly just get up with sand. And so it's those little things where I don't feel like that company was thinking, oh, hey, these people are trying to just live in this house,
Like
but it's covered
house,
in, it's covered in sand.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things we really try and install in our guys too. Is just you
try to
treat
put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Imagine if this was your house.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're doing this work in here. How would you want it to be when your kids walk in this bathroom on at the end of day one? Mm-hmm. How would you want this bathroom to be?
Right.
Would you want a razor knife laying there where your kids could grab it?
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
Let's make sure sure. So that's just common sense. I could really appreciate that you guys brought that up and that's important to you.
One of the things that we're still in the process of developing, because I'm interested in hiring a very specific person for our office staff. Our most recent office staff just graduated from college, and she is now in her line of field that she went for education. So anybody out there that needs a job, check it out. But one of the key things is not only keeping the paperwork organized so that you have a proper file for each customer, but then monitoring what we call customer service indicators, CSIs. Did you arrive on time? Did you complete the job on time? Did we communicate? Did we give ETAs? There's a myriad. There's about 12 factors that involved in that the customer themselves may not necessarily have a checklist, but we have a checklist to say, if we're keeping these items in mind, then we know that the customer is going to have a positive experience.
Right.
If we don't do those things, then the customer may not necessarily state, "Hey, I don't like this customer," and they may be okay with the job, but we want them to have a positive experience. So we have these key indicators that we are tracking and feeding back to the guys, saying, "Hey."
So you're scoring yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're scoring you by giving you reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if your score's high, that you should get a good review.
Correct. Yeah.
Got you.
Because if you're positioning yourself with these indicators of being positive, then overall the customer's going to be.
What do you do if you're? I'm sure. Surely you've had at least one low score, if not a few. I mean, what do you do when you score yourself and you can see that you scored low? I mean, is that just a hat in hand apology to the customer? I mean, do you follow up with a phone call, or how do you handle that?
We feed back to our technicians first off to make them aware of how important it is to have good scores on these. Now, whenever maybe you're 10 minutes late, I'm not going to then go, I'm not going to be on the phone apologizing to the customers, but we're looking at the overall effect. And if the overall effect is, we didn't even, and there has been times when, administrative issues come into play where our salesperson sold a job and put on the paperwork, we're going to be here on Tuesday, and it didn't get on the schedule. That it's rare, but it does happen. If that's the case, then you're on the phone apologizing to the customer, and then trying to get it rescheduled and making sure that they understand this is not what the experience that we want you to have. And just communicating to the customer is the important thing.
I think it's the key thing. Yeah, communication. Even if you're in the wrong, or especially when you're in the wrong, just talking to them and letting them know, and don't make lame excuses.
Yeah.
Just tell the truth. Hey, it fell in a hole.
Yep.
We have a person that's supposed to put that on the schedule and it didn't make it.
Yeah.
And it happens. It happens rarely, but it does happen, and I'm sorry it happened to you. Let's get this fixed. I think that people just appreciate that. You're talking to them like they're grown-ups, and I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of the things that I appreciate of being a family-owned business is that we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses, and we complement each other, as far as what our strengths and weaknesses are. And there's times when, not every customer is the ideal customer.
Right.
You have a
That's very true.
You'll have a difficult customer. We had one gentleman that we did a multiple job, multiple bathrooms, kitchen,
Several phases.
Okay. A lot of things. And like I was saying before, occasionally you may have a failure. So in his bathtub, there was a spot that was not perfect. It didn't need to be resprayed. It just needed, when the gentleman, my technician, was detailing, he had a little bit of a dust bunny or something in there that needed to be detailed out, and he missed it. So this customer was an expert because he had, at one time, he had painted his own car. So he had all of this expertise, and he says that it has to be totally resprayed, and it failed. Well, he didn't understand what kind of product that I'm dealing with, but anyway, it escalated to the point where I sent my technician back out to take care of it, and he did, but he escalated it all the way up and requested all of his money to be returned from the credit card company. And my wife said she was first point of contact. She said, "Well, you've got company coming in, and we will accommodate doing whatever we need to do to take care of that." And he interpreted that it was okay for him to go and get a hotel for the weekend at Treasure Island for a hotel room of $250 a night, and wanted me to pay for that and then refund all of his money.
Wow, man.
So,
obviously, customer service is number one to you, right?
Yeah. Well, I didn't pay for the hotel, and we submitted the documentation. But this is where my wife kind of keeps me in balance, because she's like, she changes the barometer. I kind of will that is absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Sure. So she was your filter.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
That's good.
And so obviously we just submitted the documentation, and when my technician went back and took care of the job, he gave the technician a $100 tip.
Okay. Well, there's an indication that he's happy.
Yeah. Well, it's an indication that he just wanted a free job, and so fortunately, by us submitting the documentation that we had, the job was paid for, and we didn't have to pay for the $250 a night hotel at Treasure Island.
I was going to have you make reservations.
You really need us to do your time
Well,
right
I
now.
think you have the work done first.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's get this going.
Yeah. But you want to have good customer service. You want to monitor those things and give good feedback.
But you also want to have balance as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
No, there's always going to be, folks out there. It's unfortunate, but there's just some people that are a challenge to deal with, and I think that's really where your customer service skills are going to get tested, because if you can work through the challenges with those people, then you're doing good,
Yeah.
And at the end of the job, at least have them not cussing you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they're like,
That's a good
okay,
sign.
it's done, and all right, I mean,
Yeah.
I've had customers where that's all I could get, and I'm like, it's beautiful. Their children are standing, adult children are standing there going, "Mom, that's amazing," and she's like, it's good.
Yep.
One of my favorite stories, though, of recently is I have a great diverse group of technicians. I've got females, I've got males, we've got different ethnic backgrounds and stuff. We make for a great group. It's really cool in the mornings. The guys are getting their equipment cleaned and ready for the day and stuff like that. So there's a good camaraderie there. But one of my technicians went out to do a job. Young lady. She was taking an Uber back and forth to work. That's how she got to work. Or she would catch a ride with a roommate.
Is that how she got to the jobs?
No. We no. I provide the equipment and the vehicles and stuff. So she went out to do a job. In fact, it was it Arpendale or Winter Haven?
I think
Winter Haven. She went out and did a job where the kitchen countertop was being done, and then there was a backsplash of tile, and behind the stove, they had something went on with the wall, and it required additional tile work to be repaired and redone. So she went out there and did her job, and sweetheart, and very detail oriented, and the customers just fell in love with her. She did a great job. She comes back, finishes the job. About 2 weeks later, the office gets a phone call from the customer. We just loved her. She did such a great job, and through the conversations, they found out that she was a young lady. She was maybe 21 years old, college, been in college and stuff, and so just starting her branch out into life. Yeah. So they said, we've had this car sitting in our driveway. It's a Toyota Corolla. It's an older vehicle, but it's reliable, and we just want to give her that car.
Wow, man!
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
But that shows, that the type of people that I have working for me, and the type of work that we do, and the type of customers that we have. And so they made arrangements. She had to take an afternoon off to meet them at the DMV to exchange the title and stuff like that. But
that's amazing.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you run into some really kind of crazy people here in Florida, in a good way. One of our customers dated Burt Reynolds growing up.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's cool to me.
Yeah. She broke up with him.
Yeah.
She said he was boring.
She dumped him.
Yeah.
Said he was boring. Huh?
Yeah.
There's a lady who I did a job for not too long ago. I go into her house and she's like, "Oh, have you ever seen the movie Waiting?" And I was like, "No." And and of course she has a poster in her living room. Ryan Reynolds is in the movie, and so I'm thinking, oh, she's a really big Ryan Reynolds fan. It's signed and everything. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. And she's like, yeah, my son wrote and directed that movie. And I was like, oh, wow. So I get talking, learning that this lady's son is a famous writer in LA. He wrote the movie, or I don't know if he wrote it. He either wrote or directed the movie Tag that came out a few years ago, which is that movie about a group of friends who have a lifelong game of tag going on. So, going against.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
One of my technicians who works for us now, he's done work at Taylor Swift's dad's house here in Florida. So it's just really interesting, kind of the line of work that you meet whenever you're going out to customer's house compared to sitting at a desk job, which is interesting.
I think that's one of the cool things of what we do. We're in all kinds of different people's homes. One of our customers, anytime Air Force One flew into Florida, no matter where it was at, he was the lead that serviced that vehicle, that aircraft, the fueling, the food, all of the stuff that it takes to take care of an aircraft. So it's amazing. It's really cool with so many people. Yeah. One of the ladies, actually the lady that dated Burt Reynolds, she was one of the very first female MPs in the military.
Okay.
And so she was telling us stories about, how that conflict was, the MP would call for backup, she'd show up, they'd call for backup again until she could prove herself. But it wasn't very long before they had respect for her because she could deal with stuff,
Yeah.
And so it's fascinating the people that you come across in life.
I was in the hospitality business for a long time, and in that who's the one that did Pirates of the Caribbean?
Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp met Johnny Depp, Sarah Palin, Cake Boss, all these different ones, and they're just average people.
Yeah.
You just, I wouldn't have recognized them unless someone said, "Hey, that is." I'm like, really?
In fact, at the same place that she worked, someone else that we know worked there, and she worked at a coffee shop, a well-known coffee shop. And she was told that she had to come in early one day and open up, and so she gets there and she's opening up and she's getting everything turned on and getting it ready and stuff, and they're you can't be starstruck or anything, and all of a sudden somebody comes in and orders some coffee before they open. It was a special guest, and before I go on, I want to remember. Wait. Oh, I got it. Okay. And so I had to remember his name for a moment there. And so she's getting everything ready, and he comes in and he orders, and she's just doing stuff. She's not even paying attention to who it is. And so he asks for whatever coffee he wants, and she's like, all right, and then she looks up and it's Steven Tyler. She's like, oh, hey. And so he stood there and drank his coffee and talked with her for a little while. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think you remember that when we went camping, and there was that young man there that unfortunately had leukemia. He was a teenager, and the Make-A-Wish he was a huge fan of Adam Sandler. And so he actually got to spend, I think, like 2 weeks with Adam Sandler on the set. I think right over in the Bay Area here in Florida, like maybe around Tampa or something.
Huh.
They were shooting a movie, maybe, I don't know, what was it, like 10 years ago? Something like that. But yeah, he was so excited, and we were just camping. We were neighbors camping at a campground, and he was on his cell phone. He's showing us all the pictures of him and Adam Sandler, and I just thought that was really cool.
I have a funny story. So I had a direct report, and she wore, part of the costuming was this dress and like a cardigan, a long cardigan. Never seen the woman take off the cardigan. She was in her 60s. Never seen her. She always was bundled up, always cold and all these things. Well, here comes Rod Stewart and his wife and like a party, walking over to a convention area to go to some sort of a wedding or something. And she looked out that window and she saw Rod Stewart, and the woman stood up, and this cardigan was coming off, and she was in the window watching Rod. I said, Miss Becky, what are you doing? I was in shock. I come walking to Miss Becky, what are you doing? She says, do you know who that is? I said, no. She said, that is Rod Stewart. And I was like, she said, I just want him to look over at me.
Here's
And
this lady.
I was like,
I worked with her for
my
more than a year. Never
goodness.
seen her without that card
I
again.
never saw her without that card, but she was in that window, and she was just waiting for Rod Stewart to just look her direction. I don't know if she thought it would be love at first sight or what, but she was just awestruck. And that was the funniest thing he went in the convention center, back came on her cardigan, and she just went about her business, and I was like, oh my goodness.
That's so funny.
It's so funny what people do over, stars.
The street we live on, there was a movie that Disney just produced called The One and Only Ivan. Bryan Cranston, who was in Breaking Bad, Malcolm in the Middle, just driving up and down our street, doing photo shoots and everything like that. It's crazy. Like, you don't really expect that you would meet a lot of these famous people, and then sure enough, like, you see them at work or like right on the street that you're living on.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Pretty cool.
what are you doing here?
It's weird when you see celebrities in person. That's when you really get that vibe, that feeling of them being larger than life.
Yeah.
Because they're always out of reach when you're just looking at them on television or whatever. And then when you see them in person, then they feel larger than life. But I really love it if you get an opportunity to talk to them and meet them.
Yeah.
How most, are down to earth and just, hey, I'm just a regular guy and this is just my job, and they've got that that humility about them, and I enjoy that when that happens. Of course, there's always the people that aren't nice, but that's in that's every segment. Yeah, sure. That's in construction too. You don't have to be a celebrity for that. But
I was starstruck as soon as I met you. I was just.
I felt the same. Miracle Mike. I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
I could feel the stars just coming out of my eyes. Brandon.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see you dance.
No, you don't want to see that. Lower the pole.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's important for us to love what we do. I used to, in my previous career, I worked for a Fortune 100 company, and you'd be in a social environment. Somebody be talking, like a plumber be talking about a P-trap or something. They were like really into their job. And it's like, whatever. So now that I'm doing this, I'm like, hey, dude, let me show you this repair that we did.
Yeah.
Because it
You're
is something that
passionate about it.
Yeah, man.
Well, it's a creative outlet for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, before I was just doing my career, and this is something that we really enjoy, and the transformation that you see is really amazing. Of what
I
we
remember
can do.
when he first started building a couple of buildings or building them out, and he would drive by. This was in maybe like 13 years ago, and he would drive by and say, "Oh, I did the work on that building there," or "I did," and he was just so proud of it because of that transformation piece, and there was something
you can see it.
A reality to your work,
That's what's great about construction, and especially residential construction. Commercial construction, you can still look back and see things, but it's very thankless because it's not a homeowner living in there. It's a corporation that owns it, and they're not going to come pat you on the back and say, yeah, it looks great. Whereas residential construction, they do. You get homeowners who are like, oh, wow, that just looks so good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And then it's always nice to walk away from a job like I do. That's why I love doing projects at home, because my skill set and what I'm really good at as far as my business is concerned is more administrative, and that's my strength. And with customer service and just organization and putting things together and interacting with people, that's my strength. But I'm also good with my hands. Yeah. And so when I use my home as my creative outlet, and I like to do projects at home. And Shannon will attest to this. I'll do a project, and then I'll go like get cleaned up or whatever, and then I got to walk back outside. And as long as it's daylight and there's light on it, I'm just looking at it. I'm just like, yeah, that looks good. And then I'll come back inside and I'll sit there a little bit. Maybe I'll take some pictures of it, and then I'll sit here on the couch and look at the pictures on my phone. And if more of our people, and I'm sure you guys encourage this in your in your business, and I want to encourage it in my business as well. But if more people in the construction business in general would really just get in touch with the creativity that it takes for them to do their jobs, I think that they would get a lot more out of it. It's more than just a paycheck. I mean, it's like, man, when you put that together, it's like you said, a creative outlet.
We're doing a job, a pretty extensive job in Lakeland, where it's 3 bathrooms where the tile is all around. There's an old electric heater that was built into the wall. All of the plumbing had been redone, so you got tile with holes where old plumbing had come through and everything. And so I've got one of my technicians. I said, "This is your job. Here's the basics of it," and having him have that creativity of how he's going to deal with those repairs and stuff, whether it's a type of product that we use or just a removal and replacement, he really enjoys. Part of it is that he's also got an engineering background by trade, by education. He's an engineer, so he enjoys those type of challenges. We had a lady that dropped off in an RV. You have those stoves, and then they have a cover that covers over it. Well, in movement or transportation or somehow or another, that cover had broken off, and so it has a flat piece and then a lip. Well, part of that had broken off, and they brought it in for us to repair. So I give it to Merlo, and I said, "Here, they want us to repair this," and he's looking at it. And I said, "Now, how do you think that we can do it?" And the way that he engineered it was the way that it was going to be a repair that was just not a cosmetic repair, but a repair that was going to endure. So, sometimes you can just put lipstick on a pig and make it look pretty on the outside, but he actually did the design to actually have structural strength so that repair would be last. But giving the guys that opportunity, looking for how can they have that creativity,
show their creativity
to do that. You know,
absolutely.
it isn't. Not every job has.
Was
that
that a
challenge.
negative reference towards Miss Piggy?
I love Miss Piggy. I love Miss Piggy.
Starting
How are we
controversy.
doing on feed time? Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, we probably should start winding it down here. We didn't get a lot of comedy in today, but that's okay. I think we had a lot of really heartfelt conversation. Learned a lot about your Miracle Method. And is that the actual name, Miracle Method Surface Refinishing? Is that the name of your business?
Correct.
Okay.
Miracle Method, and it's been around for 40 years. I'd never heard of it until a number of years back when I was looking for a transition from retiring from the company I worked for to moving down to Florida and being with my family, building our family business. But it had been around for 40 years, and it's a proven method. Long-term history behind it, and we've got 178 locations around the United States. Wow. There's a couple in Canada, and it's been a great company to work for too. You know, to be associated with it. We've got the guys in Clearwater have been in business over there for 27 years. And as you know, in construction, there's never the same day, you know, repeats itself. There's always something new. Those guys has so much experience. As a father-son situation over there as well. And if I come across something I haven't seen before, or we have an issue that kind of threw us a curveball, they've been a great resource. Headquarters have been a great resource.
So another location has been available to coach you when need be.
Yeah.
They've been the best neighbor ever.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, because especially, I don't know how much that you're experiencing it, but line haul and supply lines have been somewhat affected. So when I place an order for a supply, it doesn't necessarily, it's not getting to me the same speed as what it had been over the last.
Completely understand.
The last 6 months has really changed. So, hey, my product didn't come in. You got this color, you got that, and so we're constantly driving back and forth. Yeah, they've been great.
Very cool.
They've been great. So, but it's been as far as the franchise goes, it's been a great franchise for us to be associated with. Good history, good product, good training. So
Nice.
I started working with them, and they started the company. I was working for a medical family group, doing their marketing for them, and you know, my wife was pregnant with twins at the time, and then they said, you know, they were starting this company, and I was like, painting bathtubs. I'm like, that sounds kind of weird, but you know, I just decided to take the risk because I wanted to be helpful, and I knew it could also benefit me. So, you know, sometimes you gotta treat yourself. So, yeah, I ended up starting it, and it's one of those things where it seems very basic and just ordinary to paint something and make it look a little bit better, but not realizing the like
skill.
the greatness and the skill of our actual product and workers too. Because like you were saying, and what I tell my guys is, you know, you're not just going in there slapping on paint. What you are doing is work, like art. Because, you know, when we're spraying countertops, it's very particular. It's very, you know, it has to look all formed and good and everything like that. And so it does take like that artistic eye to make sure you're doing it right. So, yeah.
So do you guys have a website or social media or anything? You want to tell the viewers where they can find you?
Sure. We have a Facebook page, Miracle Method of Tampa East, which we serve like 90% of Hillsborough County and probably about 80% of 80 to 90% of Polk County as well. It's miraclemethod.com/Tampa East is our website. And we have an Instagram, we have Facebook, we have, I think that pretty much covers it, I think, for right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know you got the dogs excited.
Yeah.
So what happened? You got a phone number? You can
What is our phone number? 1-800? No, it's
Nobody uses phones anymore.
Yeah.
I know. Well,
But you're more than welcome to put it out there.
813-513-3195. The reason why I have to look is we've got a bank of phone numbers. Got phone numbers on our trucks, on our signs, so that way we can track, the source of the phone call. And
They don't need to know what's going on behind the scenes.
yeah,
That's okay.
so
cool.
yeah, that'll get it to us. And if you call off hours, it'll go to voicemail, and we'll return it the following day. So.
And then we can look at the analytics where all the phone calls come from and where do they come through Facebook or the website?
Yeah,
I think I can learn some stuff from you guys.
Yeah.
Definitely. Chris?
All right.
All right, so I think really kind of just wrap it up here. So,
Shannon.
yeah, good job, baby. Nice to meet you.
Hi. Hi, Brandon.
I'm Brandon. This is Shannon.
And we're with DCC Builders.
Yes. And as always, thank you for viewing here. I'm Brandon with DCC Builders, and you can always find us at DCC Builders on all of the most common social media sites, and you can also find us on dccbuilders.com. Or if you want to pick up the phone and give us a call, you can reach us at 863-207-4900.